I speak often to entrepreneur groups, especially young entrepreneurs. And before coming here today, I kind of figured, in a way, you guys are all entrepreneurs. You're about to launch the little companies that is you. And so when I do those talks, I always ask the same question to the group, and I want you guys to join in and give me something back here. If I could absolutely guarantee, without any chance of failure, guarantee you success, you cannot fail, what career would you choose? Come on, give me something. Yeah?
Editor.
A book editor? Okay.
Music.
Music? All right.
Geologist.
What was it?
Human resource.
Human resources? Okay.
Geologist.
Geologist? Come on. Nobody have dreams? What? Talk show host? Okay, like that. Anyone else? Chemical engineering? Okay. So I'll push that to one side for a second. So yesterday morning, once a month, I meet with the guy that I know. It's kind of an accountability meeting we have once a month. And we got to chatting, and he wants me to help him launch a non-profit in Uganda to help people there to finance and start small businesses, to train people to run a small business and help finance them. And I'm on the board of directors of a local organization called WEAVE, Women's Economic Ventures, that does that here. And so we were chatting, and it got us to chatting about what's special about this country. And for anyone who's unaware, this is a pretty special country. And even though that we may be in economic difficulties right now, what makes this country special is still very much in the fore, and this country is very special. And I told him a story that a guy had told me, well, less than a story, more of an observation. The guy I knew, I'd met him in the United States, but we were both from England, the wonderfully named Bobby Batman. And we come from opposite ends of the economic spectrum, his end being a lot more fun than my end. And he said, you know, the great thing about America is, in England, if a guy drives down the street in a Rolls Royce, people look at that guy and they go, look at that bastard in the Rolls Royce. I wish somebody would take him down a peg or two. In America, when that guy drives down the street, people point to that car and go, one day, I'm driving that car. And they believe it, that they can, and they should believe it because they really can. In 95% of this world, if you aren't born to a house that has a Rolls Royce in the garage, there will never be a Rolls Royce in your garage. But me, I was born, look, there's plenty of people who grew up much poorer than me, but we didn't have much. And I was the seventh kid of 7. My parents got, I don't know what happened, I think somebody must have died in the family, but I just remember when I was like 15, we got our first telephone and our first washing machine. My mother had washed 7 kids' clothes by hand until I was 15. I'd never even heard of a dishwasher. I just thought that was something, when I first heard about the United States, I thought it was kind of a joke, or it was a person. I didn't think it would be a machine that could do that. In this country, you can be anything. And that's why I asked you that question to begin with. Because if the people who gave me those answers, if you're not studying to be a geologist, if you're not doing something to become a talk show host or get into music, you need to go home tonight and sit in front of a mirror and ask yourself, what's going on? Because I guarantee each and every one of you, someone less smart and talented than you is already doing that job and making good money at it. So the only thing between you and that job is you deciding to do it. I once heard a headhunter talk that, I'm going to have to sort of re-edit the numbers because this was a few years ago, but he basically said, I get 10 times as many applications for jobs that pay $40,000 than I do for jobs that pay $150,000. Because people believe they can't do that job. They believe they're not worth that money. So all the fighting is going on around the crumbs on the floor, and nobody's grabbing the feast on the table. So that's my challenge to you guys, is decide what the heck you want to be. At the end of one of my lectures up at UCSB, we had Q&A, and a guy said to me, what do you look for when you're hiring someone? And I kind of figured he was angling for me to interview him, which he showed up at my company a couple of weeks later. And I said to him, what I look for is passion. Because when one of you guys shows up at my firm with your resume, I know that you have spit polished the turd that is you into this piece of paper. You have nothing that I need as far as knowledge goes. I can pick up a telephone, and at the end of 30 seconds, I can buy knowledge. That's easy. Knowledge is a commodity. Passion is something special. You can't just get your hands on that very easily. The passionate person, well, an employee, I can pay an employee to work at 2 more hours. A passionate person doesn't even know what time it is. They're just doing what they love to do. And if you're not doing a job, and it's why I go back to why I asked that question at the beginning, if your career is not what you're passionate about, you will spend your entire working life, which is a long time, getting your ass kicked day in and day out by somebody who's passionate about what they do and loving it. You'll be hating it, not making money. They'll be loving it and making money. Do what you enjoy. Frankly, you'll care less about how much money you make if you're doing what you love in the first place, but you'll be much better at it. So again, to all of you, figure out what you would actually want to be if you can't fail. And unless your answer is play in the NHL and you don't play hockey yet, yeah, that train probably already left the station. But anything else? Tell me. I would love you to point out why you couldn't do it. It's just getting your hands on some knowledge and believing you can and going out there. And so when Kristen asked me to come today, I said, I'm not sure if you want me to come, because I never went to school. I left high school. I kind of thought I'd get around to going to college. It just never happened. At the age of 19, I moved to London, and I waited tables for a couple of years and goofed around. Experimented with many substances, I think. And then a girl that I knew from London invited me to her 21st birthday party in New Zealand. I had the hots with this girl for a while. And so my roommate and I said, look, why don't we do this? It would be kind of funny. We'll show up at her party. He was like, being a good roommate, we went to boarding school together. He's like, I'm in. So we moved out of our apartment and we slept on friends' floors for like 6 or 8 weeks so we could save up money. We were both pulling double shifts day in, day out. Got a bunch of money together. And then some friends of ours held this huge going away party for us where many questionable substances got ingested. The next morning, we woke up with a hangover in Boston. That's how I arrived in the United States. A complete accident.
Don't listen to anything he says.
It's important to listen. And so one thing led to another. Basically, it involved women I had met in London. We moved to a few different cities and wound up after a couple of weeks we were in DC, at which point we had $6 between us and no ticket home. So it was time to get a job. So I started waiting tables again. And about a year later, he managed to get himself deported. I stayed. And we both thought we'd be in America like 3 weeks and then go home. And finally, I started liking America. And decided, I better start thinking about a real job. And the two things I actually was interested in doing was law or advertising. And then I found out that law in the United States is a grad degree. In England, it's an undergrad degree. I was like, a grad degree? I don't even have an undergrad degree. I'm not putting in that time. So like, advertising, you can just be it. And one day I waited on a guy, and he gave me his American Express. I said, Jaff Ford Advertising. I'm like, this guy owns an ad agency. So I came back, I asked him for his business card, and I called him every day for a month, sometimes 4 or 5 times a day. He wouldn't take my calls most of the time. I just kept on after him. And I wanted to be in creative. That's all I ever wanted to be, was in creative. And finally, literally, after 30 days of me just relentlessly calling him, he invites me to come in and meet with him. And so I went in, and I brought all these writing samples that I'd written. I've done some good stuff. I still think it's good stuff. And I sat down. He flicked through it for a minute. He just goes, yeah, the guy who comes after me like a shark on a blood spray is not going to be my creative guy. You're going to be my account guy. You're going to be a sales guy. I was so crestfallen. But I was also an illegal alien. So, and he was willing to try and help me get my green card. So I really had a lot of choice in this issue. So I took the job. And it was interesting. He did, on a very small scale, he did this thing called media bartering or media broking. And there really aren't many people that do this. And what media broking is, what we would do, is if a radio station, you've all heard like a radio station giving something away. Now, here you're in one of the crummiest media markets in the whole country, so I didn't mean that as an offense. It's a tiny market, that's what I should say. Coming from a big market, stations cost a lot of money to be on. $1,000 a spot in DC. Here, $50 will get you on air. And so they don't give away such big stuff here. In the big cities, they're giving away things like BMWs, Porsches. We once gave away a Porsche a day for a week in one of the deals we put together. But anyway, we would put these vehicles into stations or trips. I do a lot of stuff with American Airlines. And the stations pay for it using airtime. So in the wonderful days before Enron ripped off the United States, the stations did funky accounting, so they basically get all the stuff for free. It's a little harder now. And I would put together and broke these deals. So the station, in their mind, would sort of be getting this thing for nothing, because if you were about to get on a plane and the plane was about to take off and there were 5 empty seats on it, right before they closed that door, what are those seats worth? They've gone from being worth $300 to, frankly, anything that covers the cost of gas makes it worthwhile filling those seats. If you hadn't bought that sweater the day that you bought it, somebody else could have bought it the next day. It'll still be there on the shelf. But a piece of airtime on her show, if it doesn't sell that day, It's ephemeral. It's just gone. So you might as well sell it for anything when it's just about to disappear. And that's the things I put together, or used to put together. I don't do it so much anymore. Stations would have an agreement with us that right before that spot wasn't going to run, they'd put one of our spots in instead. But I'd only pay them maybe a third to a tenth of what the spot would usually cost. And so I'd turn a $40,000 BMW into 80, 100, 150 if I did spectacular deals, $250,000 of time.
1 minute warning.
1 minute warning, okay. So anyway, that's what I did for a number of years. I ended up deciding to increase the quality of my life and come to Santa Barbara. It was definitely a leap of faith because I really knew one guy here, John Greathouse. You must know heard of John Greathouse, one of the founders of what became Citrix. And he hooked me up with Guy Gabriel, who was, one of the founders of Idea Engineering. And again, a leap of faith. I'm going to skip that part and just go back to you guys. What's more important? You got to know what your strengths are. At your age, part of the beauty is the journey between where you are and bankruptcy is like this big. That's a strength. At my age, it gets scary. Me losing everything I have, that's a big number, and it gets frightening. You guys, if you aren't going for it in your 20s, if you don't crash and burn a couple of times, I'm wondering if you're pushing hard enough. Start businesses. Do crazy stuff. Not crazy. Don't go to jail. Don't get AIDS. Don't hurt the people you love. Outside of those three, anything is fair game. Go for it. You have one life to live on this planet. Just go for it. Never find yourself not doing something because you're scared of what someone might say, or I might fail, or just do it. So tonight, think of what you want to be. Go be that thing. There you go.
That's a tough act to follow, Simon. I really, I've also done a lot of speaking with classes about careers. So and I'll tell you a little bit about my story of how I got to where I am. But I will tell you that I will echo one of the things that Simon said, primary thing that he said. And that is when Kristen asked me initially to come and it was about career, I didn't realize that the topic was how I made it. So I got a laugh out of that because I, like you, am a work in progress. I don't know that I've made it, but I do know that if you define making it by doing something that you're really passionate about, then I've made it. I will tell you that I've been in this business a little over 20 years, and I still wake up every morning excited to go to work. I drive into the radio station. I can't wait to get there. I love it when it's dark in the radio station. I'm the first person there. I love that every day it's something new. And I love that I'm a part of this community and I've been able to reach people, help people, touch people. And so in that way, I guess I've made it. But I still have lots of things that I'd like to do still. So I'll tell you a little bit about the job I do and sort of how the roundabout way, again, I don't have the colorful way that you made it into your business. But I do have an interesting way that I sort of fell into things. So at this point right now, I do the morning show for K-Lite. I've been there for 18 years. We have the longest running partnership in Santa Barbara. We've lived through 5 different owners, which is quite a thing in the radio business. But I also, my background is in news, so I do news for KTMS. And then as of yesterday, actually, I'm starting on KDB. I'm going to be doing the 6 p.m. to midnight shift on the classical station. So, and then a lot of voiceover work in television and in radio. So my first passion in the business, when I look back, it's funny because I didn't choose radio really early on, but I was a musician. I loved music. We knew each other through singing choral music, but I started in my first band as a drummer when I was 14. And then I switched over to rhythm guitar, and I sang, and I wrote. And I loved music, but I was pretty self-aware that I wasn't all that talented. I had fun. We were kind of a glorified garage band and played around town, and it was fun. But I loved the industry. I love the entertainment industry. And so I came here to City College, and I studied graphics, actually. And then I transferred to UCSB, so I don't know how many people are on that program. But I wouldn't have been able to get into UCSB straight out of high school, that's for sure. And I started working for KCSB, which was the radio station out there. I was in the communications department. I was a little bit older. I'd gone back to school a little bit older. And quite honestly, I was pretty bored. And the only thing that really turned me on was the radio station. And I loved it. I loved picking songs, choosing songs. It sort of was a combination of what I had done in music and then being on the air. And I mean, I'm glad I don't have any of those tapes from those days because they would probably be really embarrassing. And somewhere along the line of realizing that I was very bored in school and sort of getting a glance at what I wanted to do, I heard about the radio and television program at San Francisco State. And so I guess in my mind I knew if I'm going to transfer from a state college to UCSB, I was still young enough that sort of mattered at the time. But I didn't care. I wanted to move out of Santa Barbara. I wanted to go to state in San Francisco and study radio and television. And so I was pretty clear what I wanted to do, but not entirely. And I still remember like it was yesterday getting my first news assignment and went out with the camera and came back and started editing, and it was just, it clicked. It was like music to me, putting together somebody's voice and writing and creating a story. And honestly, didn't really look back after that. I was really directed in that time. It was more news focused. And I started working as an intern, which I would highly recommend to anybody that can get internships right now. But I worked for KGO, which was the radio station, but also KPIX and CNN San Francisco Bureau. So by the time I came back to Santa Barbara, I had not only finished San Francisco State, in radio and television broadcast, but also coming back to a smaller market, as you had mentioned, with sort of this internship from a larger market really helped at that time. And so my one funny story about falling into my career is that, and I mean, just really no idea. And he said, that's okay, I have someone that can fill in for you for a couple weeks. And came back and started working. And so I've been, lucky. I know, I was really lucky. I mean, I look back and it's like, I was so dumb. But it's been a marvelous career. It's, you know, there are times that Gary and I, we get some questions sometimes, do we ever think about moving markets or getting into a larger market? And for me, you know, once I sort of settled here, this is the town I grew up in. I'm raising my son here. Just had no interest in moving on. So it's been a wonderful career, and I think it's going to last, at least I'm hopeful that it will last a lot longer. We can talk a little bit if anybody is interested in sort of what's changed within the radio business, because there's been a lot that technology has changed in the business. But that's sort of my story of where I am and how I got here. And again, just echoing Simon's statements about do something you're passionate about, because if not, you'll feel it every day. It's something that you just must do, and it doesn't. You know, I mean, I'm looking at I think a pretty diverse age group, and I don't think it really matters if you're, 19 or if you're 40, figuring out what you're going to do. It's never too late to do something that you're passionate about. So, that's it.
Thanks.
Got you back on time.
So hi everyone, my name is Anna Ruvalcaba, and I work as an event marketing specialist at Citrix Online. And I wanted to share a little bit with you today about how I kind of made it into events marketing, the process that I went through, and then also just share with you some recommendations that I have for how you can figure out, as both of my co-presenters have said, what is it that makes you tick, what is it that you're passionate about. And there's a reason that theme keeps repeating. And as you start your work career and you realize you're going to be working for 40 years or so, you would hope that it's something that you're passionate and excited about. So this picture is actually one that a digital caricature artist did at a recent trade show. So when you think about event planning, I'm not sure what you think about, but I know that it's not what I thought it was when I started. So I wanted to kind of start by sharing with you the variety of events that I work on as a part of the event marketing team at Citrix Online. And this is actually one of the reasons why I enjoy my job so much. I'm never doing the same thing every day, and my event plans never go the way that they're supposed to, but somehow in the end result is is generally positive. So there's trade shows and sponsorships, and that's primarily what I work on. So I work at a tech company, and that tech company wants to promote its products through a variety of different ways. And one of the ways that we do it is in person at trade shows. And so we're in the booth, we're doing demos, we're introducing people to the product. Sometimes it's just telling them what our product is. Sometimes it's providing a demo. Sometimes it's just setting a call up for after the show closes. There's also customer research events. So it's a software company, which means that every year or so, every 6 months or so, our products are being updated. And so we want to know, is that button where it should be? Should it be red instead of green? And we do events that kind of allow our user experience team to interact with customers and prospects to help them figure that out. There's also really fun stuff, which is more probably what you think of when you think of planning events, and those are the holiday parties, the employee parties, the happy hours. Our most recent one was at EOS, and Pandora Radio, who we do a lot of advertising through, hosted a happy hour for us. But I planned it. Not sure how that works. But anyway, there was O Street Catering, which is a food truck. That's the latest, coolest thing, right? Everybody wants gourmet food trucks at their events, and they came. We had a live band, and this is what I do for work. So I usually feel pretty lucky most days. There's also boring things, but I'll tell you about that later. So there's all hands meetings, which is, we have 1,200 people who work at our company. Once a quarter, we need to get together and talk about the state of the company, what's happening, our sales numbers, where are we going, what new products are being launched, et cetera. And that happens because our offices are literally all over the world. That happens both online and in person. So there's an in-person gathering. There's IT teams, product teams that are involved with making sure that that broadcast goes out live to the entire company. There's product launches, like I mentioned. Basically, there's a new product coming out. We want to create some buzz and press about it, so we might host an event to kind of get people excited about the upcoming product launch. And then some very cool, unique things, I think, to planning events in Santa Barbara, because I feel like events teams don't necessarily get to do that, get to do sales team conferences and incentive trips at smaller companies. But basically, if our sales team meets their goals for the year, there's a trip, and it's always to Hawaii, the Bahamas, Mexico, wherever. And if they make their numbers, they get to go to this event and basically be taken care of for a week, get massages, have parties, be recognized by the president of our company, et cetera, et cetera. So unfortunately, someone has to plan that, and it's a great opportunity to interact. Being a part of the events team means that I interact with a lot of teams across my company, including the sales team. And I wanted to share with you just kind of one thing that I get a kick out of when I do events is creating something. And so when I show up to an event, on the right-hand side, there's giant crates, cables, carpet, and a lot of stuff to unpack. And when I'm done, I have a mini office. I have, internet on both of my demo stations there. I have things to give away. I have ways to collect people's information, badge scans, and that sort of thing. And I personally have a passion for creating that and organizing that and having the sales team people come in and just sell, do what they do, I do what I do. We're both happy at the end of the day. Salespeople don't want to set up a trade show booth. And I enjoy hosting and taking care of people. And so I figured that out in my path along my career, and that's one of the things that I really enjoy about events. And this is kind of just a bigger example of that. Those are crates, weighing 2,000 pounds. They're 10 feet tall. There's a labor crew that comes in with tools and ladders. And that particular show, we were doing a presentation. We were hosting presentations in the booth, so people were coming and sitting, listening to the speaker 10 to 20 minutes at a time. And being an event planner means that you have to be a jack of all trades. Before I started doing this job, if you would have told me that I had to set up an AV system, I would have freaked out. I am not a technical person, hardly turn on the computer, but now I can set up AV systems. Why? Because I have to. I have no choice. There's a box with a bunch of equipment, and it's like, here, I'm going to set it up. And then there's a lot of pressure. The speakers are there. They want to make sure their mic works. Do their slides work? Is everything working? And so you're kind of, I think the key thing that you're doing at an event like this is hosting. And I'm not sure if that's what you would think of when you're considering this career. The event on the left is an event that we did at Bacara, and it's basically 700 employees in a room, and we were launching a new mission statement for a company. And so we hired an improv company to come in and act out the mission statement. And I got to stay at Bacara for a week. Not because it was so, a perk for me, but because most of the time I had to be in the ballroom making sure it was getting ready at 6 in the morning. So,
but come on, it was a perk.
it was, it's fun, but it's not a vacation, okay? That's what I tell people. I'm definitely working when I'm staying at the Bacara. And then on the right, that's actually two of my coworkers and myself. We did and my boss down there at the bottom. So we did a product launch, and it was surrounding integrated webcam into our online meeting software. And so it's called HD Faces. So we did face painting that day, and all of us were face painted. And we said, let's do something cool. After the event ended, the launch event ended, we were all kind of, still riled up, and it's like, oh, let's do something fun. So, we sat at our desks and we do silly things. So I think it's one of the perks of working actually for a tech company where there's a lot of young people. I really enjoy it. Right out of college, I worked at a small company where there was 5 people and they were all kind of older, and I was the only young one. So if you can find an environment and a culture that works for you as you're interning or volunteering or doing assistant level jobs, I would highly recommend looking for a place like Citrix. So like my other 2 colleagues, I'm going to recommend to you that you think about what it is that makes you happy. And so I think when I was a student, I heard people tell me this, but I didn't really know what that meant. And so I think I went through a process where I had to define that for myself. And I think that you should do this while you're students. One thing that I knew was that I liked helping people. And so I thought that was going to translate into my career by perhaps working at a nonprofit. And then I worked at a nonprofit. And then I said, no, I don't think that's going to work. I actually want to make some money in this lifetime. I have siblings. I'm one of 8 kids. I'm actually second oldest. And I have an ambition to do something with my career. So I said, okay, not nonprofit. But I did, actually, that was my first event planning job, was at a nonprofit. I was organizing events for a community organization. And I knew I wanted to travel. So as a child, 8 kids, poor family, you don't get to travel. So I knew I wanted to see the world. And I knew I needed to find a job. Is that my warning? Uh-oh. I knew I needed to find a job that would pay me to travel. I had no idea what that was going to be. So I wanted to major in something practical. So I decided to major in business. And then picking marketing was just, basically I didn't like finance. I didn't like accounting. I didn't like human resources. I went down the list of all my concentrations, and the only one that was left was marketing. So I started doing marketing, and it was kind of by default. But as I started doing it more and more, I realized that this is what I was meant to do. And really, the recommendation that I have for you guys is to figure out what your passions are and be persistent. There's nothing that I've accomplished in this lifetime without being persistent. If one person tells you no, go to the next person. The next person tells you no, go to the next person. And just move on until you make something of yourself. Be a student. Take advantage of the opportunities that you have as a student. Intern places. Figure out if the thing that you think you like to do is really the thing that's going to make you happy for a 40-year career. Volunteer your time. That's not a waste of your time. Volunteering your time allows you, it actually not only looks good on a resume, but also can help you figure out, again, if you're meant to do something. And then work. I get resumes, or I see resumes of people who've done nothing. They just graduated from college and they want to work at Citrix because it sounds cool. Well, what have you done? Everyone else has a degree. So what have you done that's special, that's going to make you stand out? And the degree is not going to cut it. So it's got to be experience or something, or some demonstration that you're interested in the field that you're trying to get into. And I'll just close with one of my favorite quotes. I actually have this on my desk, and I look at it every day. Colin Powell said, "There are no secrets to success. It is the result of preparation, hard work, and learning from failure." So I would just suggest to you that you not look at success in your career as the secret that you have to unveil. You just have to keep trying and move along and try different things. And eventually, hopefully, it might take some time, but you'll be successful if you simply persist in trying. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anna. Well, I really love when our speakers play right into the Career Center's hand. I think all of you talked about interning. We can help you at the Career Center with that. It's such a great thing to do, and I think they all highlighted it. And another thing that we help you do is find your passion, build your resume. So many things that all of you said, we are prepared and eager to help you with at the Career Center. So I hope you will avail yourselves on us. Let's open it up to your questions. I have 1,000,001 questions for these guys. So just come on up and we'll, if you have a question directed to somebody in particular, feel free. If you just want to kind of ask the group, you guys can arm wrestle for who answers it. All right, anybody? Yes, right here.
So what kind of characteristics do you each have that you found specifically help you in your careers? Have helped you besides passion?
What sort of characteristics that we have helped us in our career?
Yeah.
She asked me to repeat it. So, I think for me, certain curiosity, because at least 50% of what I'm doing is writing and reporting and interviewing people. So that part is always, that's innate for me. I've just always been curious about people and what makes them different and unique and what their passion is. So I love drawing people out in interviews. And I've had friends of mine that will say, like, if we're out, it's like, okay, stop the interview thing. Sometimes I have to stop asking questions. So that part is innate. Also, reading. I think in terms of journalism, if anybody's thinking about being a journalist, reading is as important as writing is for me. So I couldn't stress that enough.
I think for me, it's probably my natural tendency to double and triple check everything. Events, you spend 10% of your time during the live event and about 90% of the time planning for the event. So I'm kind of a skeptical person. So if someone tells me they're going to be somewhere at 3 o'clock on Friday, I'll call them Thursday and say, hey, so we're still meeting at 3 o'clock on Friday. Oh, yes, absolutely. Or, oh, hey, I forgot. Thanks for reminding me. So I just have an innate tendency to double check things. And I think as an event planner, that's a key skill to have. I probably have like a couple others, but that was just the first one that came to mind.
And I guess you also have to be very, very organized and plan B also.
Very, and C and D.
So that question, actually, it was something that Catherine said. I was reminded of a Winston Churchill quote at the end of the Battle of Britain. He said, this isn't the end, it's not even the beginning of the end, but maybe it's the end of the beginning. That's where you guys are right now. I think a lot of people, one quality that I think I had is I never felt I hit a finish line. A lot of people get to the end of school and they go, whew, that's that done, learning's over. It's just beginning. It's just beginning for you guys. So when Catherine was talking about reading, be prodigious readers. Never lose sight. I mean, knowledge is just the greatest thing. Keep amassing it. Maybe you'll get more than the other people who are doing what you do. For me, for big characteristics of myself, I think a big one for me is I'm never in a bad mood. I don't know why. Maybe I got lucky. I wake up every morning with a smile, and it stays there no matter what. I remember an old boss of mine who just finished screaming at me for half an hour, and my voice didn't change from this, and he goes, that's why you work for me, because I can fire a shotgun in your face and you don't flinch. So there's nothing that's that bad. In fact, I read a paper recently that said, and it's important to remember this, I say it to entrepreneurs, the opposite of success is not failure. The opposite of success is mediocrity. Mm-hmm. Don't be crummy at something. Don't just phone it in. It is okay to crash and burn. Everybody that you admire has crashed and burned. The difference is they just got up and did it again. Mm-hmm. And that goes back to the slide that Anna had about persistence. Just stay on it. It's okay to crash and burn.
Great. More questions?
I
Oh, okay. And then we'll do you.
Okay. Sir, in the, yeah.
Yeah, at Idea Engineering, you're a CEO, and I was just wondering, how big is your firm? What's the turnover? What's the pay scale?
Well, we're 13 people currently.
The question.
Oh, Idea Engineering, the firm that I'm the CEO of, want to know what size it is, what's the pay scale. I don't have to get the people's pay, but we're 13 people right now. The way our firm is structured is that we're all kind of top heavy. We have deep experience, and we farm out, well, we don't farm out, we bring in specialists for certain things that we need. We do probably 80 or 90% of our work ourselves, but we don't like have staff photographers or staff flash coders, because we tend to bring those people in for the flavor that we want for that particular job. But we've done some pretty high profile stuff, one of which being we launched Go to My PC, which is the product that launched your firm. Mm-hmm. We were involved in that when it was still unnamed. In fact, when I hadn't even decided really what to do with the technology, we started on that. We're launching right now. We're just opening our DC office. I'm flying to DC this Sunday, actually. We're spending a week a month in DC, getting our DC office up and flying. So hopefully we'll be a lot more people soon.
And you hire interns regularly?
No, I can never find out what to do with them, but I'm trying to get my assistant to be better at that.
And the people who work for your firm, you're on staff of 13, I realize you don't want to reveal how much income they make, but can you tell us whether these people, your people are earning equity in the property they're paying, whether they own their own homes?
Whether they own their own homes?
Yeah, I mean, basically,
I think most of them, I must admit, I don't even know my partners that well. I have 4 partners, and I don't know being at dinner in any of their houses. But I think it's what makes our firm strong. We really like each other. We don't hang out that much. The people in my firm, my biggest hope for this company, and my staff know this, my biggest hope is that we sell it to the employees later. That's been my goal. Is that it used to be my goal when I was 55, but that's only 5 years away now, so maybe it's 60. We always went through a recession.
You're older than 55?
I'm 50.
You're 50.
I just look beautiful. But it's been my goal that we would sell this company to the employees.
Great. We have a question over here.
My question was for Anna. I wanted to ask you, you said that your major was in marketing, but is there something like more targeted towards event planning? Because whenever I think about marketing, I think about sales or promotions or stuff like that, not particular event planning. Is there something like,
Well, the events,
just like a school or like a course or like?
the short answer, no. So you can major in a variety of different things. Communications is one of them. I actually majored in business administration with a focus in marketing. And some of my coworkers have sociology degrees.
Oh, okay.
So, there's people with political science degrees who do events. But if you look at the way the events team fits into my company, the events team is a part of the demand generation team at Citrix Online, which means that that team is tasked with creating leads for the sales team. So it is a heavy marketing focus within my job.
Yes. Oh, okay.
So marketing, even though it's not directly, a lot of organizations have event planners within their marketing function. If you're looking at an event planning company, that's different. All they do is events. We're specifically looking at how events fit into creating leads for our sales team.
I understand. So then, for example, if you would like to work in this area, in this domain, and if you would like to go out there,
how do you get into it?
In event planning, okay, you just get like a portfolio with what you've done so far, or how would you do it? How would you, promote yourself there that you're able to do event planning?
Sure. The question was, and I'm sorry I didn't repeat the last one, but the question was, how do you get into event planning? I'm getting signals back there. Wait, repeat the question. That's okay. So the way that I would recommend that you get into event planning is by working for an event planner or interning with a marketing company. The way that I realized, I actually skipped this in part of my presentation, but I was an assistant for a marketing team here in town, and I looked at all the different roles within marketing. There was the PR function, there was the email people, there was all these different functions within that corporate marketing team. And the only one that sounded like any fun to me was the event planner's job. She got to travel, she got to host, she got to do all these things that I wanted to do. And so I think if you are interested in the marketing field and you're unsure of which part of it you want to go into, being an assistant for a marketing team is one of the best things that you can do.
Okay. And
Sorry. We have another question here.
I'm happy to talk with you after we close. I have my card here. I have a sign-up sheet if you're interested in internships at Citrix Online.
How would a young entrepreneur get investment into starting their company, or something that you're passionate about and you have an idea about, but you have no money to start it?
Do you, how much longer do you have here? Oh, how does a young entrepreneur get basically started and get an investment? How much longer do you have at this school?
1 year.
And are you going to any other school after this one?
Planning to transfer, yes.
To where?
Unsure.
Okay, well at UCSB, firstly, just for anybody that doesn't already know, UCSB is one of the best schools in the country. That's kind of unknown. They've done a crummy job of marketing themselves. But UCSB has a program called the TMP program. I actually speak up there, the Technology Management Program. And they do an incredible job of minting young entrepreneurs. The WEAVE, which is Women's Economic Ventures, they have what's called SET, self-employment training. And that's actually going to be worthwhile. You go through that for 14 weeks and you'll end up with a business plan. There's a website called, bugger, I'll give you my card. There's a website that I just was made aware of that's an incredible how-to that you can go. Somebody, an MBA guy, started a bunch of businesses, just literally built a website of here's how you do it and how the tools and that's one way.
I have to jump in. We also here at Santa Barbara City College have the Scheinfeld Center for Entrepreneurism.
Bang.
So you could make an appointment with them. They have several classes. Some of them are full semester, some of them are shorter, that can help you with exactly these kind of questions.
Do that.
They're located in the Career Center too. But let's move on. Yes?
A lot of people have an idea that they'd like to lead or go into business for themselves, and they have a great idea. What's kind of set that apart? You were working for somebody else. What sparked the change that you were like, I'm done with this. I need to do my own thing?
Are you talking to me? In all truth, I've had a lifelong aversion to being told what to do. Whether it's a cop or anybody else, I do not like being told what to do, or my parents. It's funny, somebody asked me, the question that reminds me of, once at the TMP when I did a talk, a guy said, what do you do to deal with risk? How do you handle risk? And I said, I guess it's different for everybody, but for me, I don't think I'm taking risks. I don't know where that comes from. It could be stupidity. But when I'm doing things for my firm or for other businesses I've done, it just never feels that risky to me. I just have an innate belief that it's going to be okay. And again, even if it crashes and burns, I'll learn something. And things tend to work out. I got to tell you, again, maybe I've been lucky, but things just tend to work out. Mostly, you're your own worst enemy. What will happen is you'll decide you can't do it. You'll come up with some reason to not do something. Just go for it. I think that's the biggest and best answer. Just make it happen.
Right.
Yes? Yeah, I got two questions. One is, do you think it's realistic for a communication graduate to work in the area of human resources?
Human resources? And you might be able to speak to that one a little bit better.
Yeah, can you repeat the question?
Sure. Is it reasonable to think that somebody that's graduated with a communications degree might work in human resources?
I want to answer it.
Yeah.
I want to answer it because I've heard it kind of batted around the room. I personally, and I know some others of us in the Career Center, believe that you don't necessarily, you can have any job with any major. I mean, look at Simon. He told us he didn't even go to school. I really wish he hadn't said that, but no, I mean, and here he is in a very illustrious career in marketing and public relations. So I would say yes. I don't think that's an unrealistic jump. There are lots of things. I mean, human relations is a lot about communications, but I have friends who studied art history who are now in human relations or human resources. Excuse me. You said human resources, right? Yeah. And then you were saying you work with people who have sociology degrees who are now event planners. So I mean, I think there's a lot of flexibility.
I just want to say one other thing, because you said that, because this is worth knowing. It wasn't that I was a goof off. I was an A student all the way through school. And I read prodigiously about what I do. I still have a passion for reading. I'm reading a ton of other things too. And I wish I had gone to school. It would have made my journey a lot shorter, I gotta tell you. Because one thing I lost was I didn't so well learn how to learn. And that's an important part of being at school. That's why it's not so important what you study. It's that you learn how to study. And it will help you launch yourself. So, stay in
Well,
school,
I'm going
go
to stick up for my friend Simon here because I have met some of the most creative and bright people that actually never went to school. I mean, you've got a ton of resources here, but I just did a story this last week that a child with one of those smartphones has more access now to information than the United States president did 15 years ago. So the amount of information that you have and the reading that you can do and the way you can self-educate, apart from, and also, you know, continuing to go to school, obviously, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't think it was important, but I don't think that's a criteria for making it, so just so you know.
So now you're mad at her.
Yeah, I know.
Thanks for taking the heat off.
Yes, for marketing up in regulations, do you have any schools you recommend going to? Like, I'm thinking of going to Antioch University.
I wish I could help you. I can't.
Do you know marketing PR?
Oh, reminder, repeat the question.
Schools? Yes.
Do we have any recommendations for marketing schools?
Are you
Anyone?
looking locally?
Yeah.
Santa Barbara.
Yeah, Johnson.
Okay.
You're probably at one of the finest here.
Yeah, you know,
Um,
you can, that question can be explored in depth at the Career Center and also in the Transfer Center. Not to beat our own drum again, but that's part of what we do. So please come visit us and we'd love to explore that with you.
And you know, just to kind of provide an answer, it's not necessarily an area. I studied at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, and I highly recommend their program. Their motto is learn by doing, and what that translated into in my classes was a lot of small group work, which is similar to what I do now in the corporate environment. A lot of presentations. Senior project is required, and it was actually through my senior project that I first organized events. So I highly recommend that school. It's not a marketing program per se, it's a business program with a marketing concentration. So if you would consider the Central Coast and not just Santa Barbara, I would highly recommend that school.
Actually, that's also real quickly a good point in terms of being in school and taking advantage of internships, because once you're not in college, you can't get hired for nothing at any company. They just can't do it. So take advantage of the fact that you're at City College and see if you can go out and get an internship.
One little thing, because this has come up a couple of times here. I often say in my lectures, it's amazing how much companies will spend chasing new customers instead of taking good care of the customers they already have. Because frankly, it's easier to keep a customer than to get a new one. It's come up a couple of times with you guys that you want to go somewhere else for something when it actually exists right here. So if all of you haven't already spoken to this person or the people that you work with, make use of the stuff you're already paying for goodness sake. This is one of the best city colleges in the entire nation that you happen to be attending. Maybe you don't know that either. It is. Make use of it.
Thank you, Simon. I have to flog him after all. Okay, one question here.
Is it hard to get like an internship as a freshman, like my first semester, and like anything like radio, TV, like do you have to be older or?
Oh, the question was how difficult is it to find internships in radio and television? Again, I think it has to do with your passion and desire
Be cute.
to do it.
You've got that covered.
Don't listen to him. Be bright. And be willing to work. Be willing to work hard. I will tell you that right now, is at least in the broadcasting business, there are fewer and fewer jobs because of technology, and that's a whole nother topic. But most of the people that have made it into the business, when I track like the last 10 years of what's happened, and kids that have made it into, especially transferred into the announcing portion of things, they've all started out as interns. Every single one of them. They walked into the station as interns because there aren't a lot of entry-level positions anymore. So.
Great, thank you. We have a question right there.
Yeah, I actually have two. First, when you feel intimidated, what do you do or say to yourself to overcome that intimidation or that threat?
Like when you're interviewing, or in what situation?
In any, I don't know, just kind of general, like, you know, whether it be a person or some kind of project or something that's presented.
Okay, so the question was, when you're intimidated about a person or a project or just an idea, what do you do to work past it?
My first response to that is just experience doing it again and again and again, and to the point where you realize that you might feel that in the very beginning and then it goes away. Yeah, but it's just, it's really, did anybody go see Maya Angelou the other night?
No, I missed
She was
it.
here. One of the most beautiful things she said, you can be a lot of things. You can be, you know, kind-hearted, and you can have all your best wishes for people, and you won't be, maybe you're not prejudiced, but without courage, you're nothing, because you won't act on any of those things. So I think it's just about being courageous and, again, being willing to fail. But, yeah, because everybody is. I mean, everybody has those trepidations.
I give myself pep talks. So I just tell myself I'm awesome. I tell myself I'm awesome.
I say that about you too.
I'm awesome. I can do this. I got this. I just tell myself over and over and over again. You fake it until you make it. That's what I do. I was terrified of public speaking. I was terribly shy as a child. And then somewhere around 20, I got over it. And then I spent the age from 20 to 30 trying to get over that particular fear. I don't know why I chose it, but I chose it. And I joined Toastmasters International 5 years ago. It's an international speaking club. And nobody tells you how to speak. You just get up in front of the group and you do it. And when I first started doing it, I literally, my heart would be pounding so hard that I couldn't hear. So all of you would get fuzzy and I would freak out. And I just did it over and over and over again. And when I was asked to speak here, one of the things that I like to do is I prepare. I'm an event planner. This is what I do. I prepare. Well, one of the things you need to be able to do as a speaker is ad-lib and do things, present at the drop of a hat. And so I didn't start preparing until about 11 o'clock last night, and I created a PowerPoint, and I said, I got this. And here, I just told you my secret, but you know, no one would know that I would have freaked out so much over a little presentation. So just do it. It doesn't matter if it's scary, just do it anyway.
Just along that line, I know I'm not a panelist, but I just have to chime in. Sorry. I remember when I worked at Girl Scouts, I often had to deal with conflict, which seems crazy. There would be infighting and all of this craziness, and it made me very nervous to have to deal with this conflict. And so I would practice, as I was driving there, I would practice the conversation in the car. And I would say, you know, I would do both parts of the conversation. I would try to anticipate what, you know, the angry person was going to say and how I would respond to it. And I think there's something that happens when you do it out loud. And the car was a great place for that, because it kind of gets it into your mind. You're like, okay, you know, he's probably going to say, well, you know, somebody stole the cookie money, you know. But it kind of, and I think it also relaxes you a little. Like if you've kind of gone through it, you know, even though the conversation isn't going to go exactly that way, you've kind of prepared yourself. So, do we have maybe one more question? I'm sorry.
All I'd say is to that is, fundamentally, I mean, people have a hard time believing this. I still describe myself as a shy person. I was always very shy. This is what you see is a 35-year battle against it. I only did public speaking for the first time 3 years ago, up at UCSB, and man, I sucked so bad. And I just kept on at it, hoping that I'd get good, and now I love it. I actually did no preparation for the day. I just kind of knew what I would do, and I walked in the door and did it. There's just two quotes that I have that I really try and live by. One is by Goethe, who says, "Act boldly and mighty forces will come to your aid." And that's just very true. If you go for it, people will get excited and they'll want to help you. And the other one is, I actually never used to be a person of faith. I am now, but nonetheless, since I was a kid, I just read this one day and I was like, man, I love the sentiment of that, which is, the Lord is my light and my savior. Whom shall I fear? And I just love that. Who the heck are you fearing? Who are you intimidated by? Unless somebody is coming into a meeting with you, packing a sidearm, and they're in a bad mood, what the heck? What are you scared of? There's nothing they can do. So don't worry about it. Be awesome.
I actually think that's a great place to end. I know there are some burning questions, and hopefully our speakers could perhaps stay a couple minutes and you can ask them one-on-one. I really appreciate all of you for coming, and I really appreciate our panelists. You were all outstanding. And let's just appreciate them.